How to parse the dictionary entry of Greek words. First up, the dictionary entry for words that show inflection, i.e., verbs, nouns, pronouns, and adjectives, contain the minimum amount of information necessary to create all inflected forms of the word. So, for verbs, we're going to use our example verb luo. The dictionary entry is the first singular present active indicative. For contract verbs, the first singular present active indicative would be philo and boo, but that doesn't actually give you the minimum number of information you need to form all forms of the word. So, in the dictionary entry, it's given to you in the uncontracted form phileo and boao. That gives you the minimum amount of information you need. When you form your forms based off of the information from phileo and boao, then you can make your contractions afterwards. Without the epsilon and alpha, you wouldn't know whether it's an epsilon contract or an alpha contract. For deponent verbs, since there is no active form, the dictionary entry is in the first singular present middle indicative. Now, right now we only know the present tense, but to form other tenses of the verb, you'll need some other principal parts. So, just FYI, in the future, you'll see that dictionary entries of verbs contain more than just the present active indicative. So, luo is the first singular present active indicative. Luso, which will be the second principal part, is the first singular future indicative active. And elusa, which will be the third principal part, is the first singular aorist indicative active. I know you don't know what aorist means yet, but it's a past tense. So, in the future, you will see, by the end of Atanasda Book 1, you'll see verbs listed with three principal parts: the present indicative active, the future indicative active, and the aorist indicative active. That's the minimum amount of information you need to know in order to form all of the persons and numbers in the present, future, and aorist tenses. For nouns, the dictionary entry will give you, say, for example, anthropos, anthropou, ho, and then the meaning. The first part is the nominative singular. The second part is the genitive singular. Together, the information you can get from that is the declension. In this case, that's the second declension. And then that last part, ho, is the definite article. That information lets you know what the gender is. And in this case, that's masculine. Now, if we look at an example third declension noun, so we'll use pais, paidos, ho, which means boy. Again, the first part is the nominative singular and the second part is the genitive singular, and together that tells you what the declension is. Now it becomes more important than before to have both of these parts because you can only get the stem from the genitive singular. In this case, the stem is paid. Then, like before, the definite article tells you the gender, and in this case, that's still masculine. For adjectives, there's several different kinds of adjectives. If it's a 2-1-2 adjective, like alos, ale, alon, it'll be listed as alos, at, on, which you can expand mentally to alos, ale, alon. The first part is the masculine nominative singular, second part feminine nominative singular, third part neuter nominative singular. If you ever see one that looks like this, argos, argon, that means it's a two-termination adjective. Two-termination is a fancy word for saying that there's only two sets of endings. The first set applies to both masculine and feminine. So in this case, the feminine endings look exactly like the masculine endings of the second declension in Argos. So Argos is either masculine or feminine nominative singular, and then Argon is neuter nominative singular. So no matter what the gender is, it's all going to follow the second declension. That's two different kinds of dictionary entries for adjectives. A 2-1-2 adjective, or a two-termination adjective, which is second declension. Another kind of dictionary entry for adjectives is third declension adjectives. The ones we've learned so far are two-termination, like sophron with an omega nu and sophron with an omicron nu. So like the other two-termination one, the first part is masculine or feminine nominative singular, and that is a third declension adjective. The second part of the dictionary entry is neuter nominative singular, and that is also a third declension adjective. And in this case, you get the stem from the neuter nominative singular. So the stem is identical to the neuter nominative singular, and that is what you add your endings to. The end.